Good evening, folks. Welcome. My name is Nathan Judy. I'm Public Information Officer for California Interagency Incident Management Team 5. I'll be your facilitator for this evening. Just want to welcome everybody. Thank you for taking your time out. This is the informational briefing and community meeting for the bridge fire for Monday, September 16th. You're going to hear from folks this evening from our team and from our cooperating agencies and our unified command. After the formal presentation of the briefing, we will go into questions and answers. The questions that you had written down on the cards in the room, for the folks online, it's the ones you put in the chat or emailed earlier. We'll get to those questions afterwards. We ask that you not holler out questions during the meeting, just because we want to make sure people online can hear those questions as well, and we answer everyone's questions. We will be with you afterwards. All the folks are going to be speaking tonight, plus all the other folks in the room from different agencies to talk with you one-on-ones. We have maps throughout the room, so please talk to us afterwards if we don't answer your question during the meeting. I would like to recognize some of the folks that are in this room. So again, if you do have questions for them afterwards, just to identify some folks. So with Unified Command from LA County Fire, Albert Yurasakawa. Unified IC from San Bernardino County, Martin Cerna. Unified Command from CAL FIRE, Travis Thogmartin. And Unified Command, or Unified Sheriff, he's under command too, with the San Dimas Sheriff's Department, Louis Cerna, Jr. We also have with us from LA County Fire, Assistant Chief Drew Smith. There you go, Drew. Thank you. So I appreciate everyone being in the room this evening. Thank you again. And we're going to go ahead and get started with an operational briefing from our Operations Section Chief, Don Fergulia.
All right. Good evening, everybody. So I'd like to walk everybody around the fire, spend some time with the quick operational update, and like we typically do, we'll start down here on the south end of the fire. Here, all along the south end of the fire is looking really good. Actually, we've had days in here with crews and engines and where applicable, bulldozers, and it's starting to look really good. We do have just a little bit of stuff left here around Saddle Mountain repeater site, so this is giving us just a little bit of fits in here. It's not really moving. It's just the terrain is challenging, and you're going to hear me say that probably multiple times across this fire. This is your home. You know what the terrain's like out there. It's steep. It's treacherous, and it's very unforgiving. So here, where we're coming down to the Baldy Road, is just presenting some challenge, but we don't expect it to move. Just more time to mop that up. Okay, as we move along the west flank of this fire and we move up towards the Sheep Mountain Wilderness, this fire has definitely run itself up to a ridge. Not really showing a whole lot of heat in here. We're watching it every day with aircraft. We're watching it with satellites. We're watching it with all the tools in the toolbox to keep this edge in check as we start to gain access all at different points here. Pigeon Ridge, we have a dozer line going in there to try to get up there. And we will be tackling this in the coming days as far as gaining containment out there. However, again, steep, rugged country, limited access. As we move up north here to Mount Baden-Powell, same story. Vincent Gap, this is actually starting to look pretty good. We did save the Vincent cabin yesterday. Did a little tactical firing around the cabin. I guess that's the first ever, or that's the last cabin that's left on the Angeles National Forest. So pretty unique piece of history down there we were able to save. Into Vincent Gap, and then up here into this area of the fire that's kind of exhibiting the most heat right now. This is on the northwest corner, Fenner Gap, Fenner Saddle area. Again, steep, challenging terrain. We have the majority of our resources on this whole north end. They're concentrated right here in the northwest corner, and we feel that in the coming days we'll be successful there. Moving along the Big Pines Road and then out into the desert out here, we actually gained considerable containment here on the north end of the fire today. So you'll see that like it looks black here on the bottom. You're going to see quite a bit of this black line coming across the top. All around the community of Wrightwood's actually starting to look really, really good. We're feeling confident about the lines in there and all the way up to the top of Wright Mountain. So now we'll get into the side of the fire I'm sure you all want to hear the most about. Here south of Wright Mountain, hometown hotshot crew, the Dalton Hotshots, have been in there last couple of days with some LA County crews, and they did finally pick this up late yesterday afternoon. So we've got good containment line all the way back up here into the granite and into the rocks. So As we move here, again, it's kind of the same story that's going on the west side. It's this eastern flank here that's in the wilderness. Terrain's very broken. Not a lot of continuous fuel out there. Not a lot of bushes or too much of that kind of stuff. So this line here is going to be the same story as the other side. We're gaining access, probably using helicopters to land people at strategic places, and we're going to go out and make sure that edge is going to stay right where it is. Down into Baldy Village, we were able to, actually quite a bit of this will turn black tonight as well, all along the Baldy Road up to Ice House. And then we were able to poke up a little bit up this flank going here, and then it rocks out, and this is all hung up in the rocks and no smoke, no heat showing there. So down into Baldy Village is all looking really good. We've got that mopped up, secured, and looking good back down to Saddle Mountain where we kind of started this conversation. So I'll be around afterwards. Ask me questions. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to have our fire behavior analyst, Garrett Hazelton.
Okay, good evening, everybody in person and online. My name is Garrett Hazelton. I'm with the team, and I'm the fire behavior analyst. So my job is to look at fuels, weather, and topography to understand how this fire moved across the landscape and what happened in the past, and we can look towards the future. So let's first talk about weather. So you guys, we're all from out here, right? I'm a local guy too. It's been a really hot and dry summer. Very hot, dry. But let's go back even farther. What was the winter like? A lot of rain, right? So when we combine a winter of a lot of rain with a hot, dry summer, that builds a good recipe for fires in the fall and the summer months. So for our weather, what we're looking at for the next couple of days. We went from crazy hot, high temperatures to this weird cold front that came over, right? So that cold front is passing over us right now, and it's making its way out. Weather's a little bit better today than it was yesterday. Happy to say tomorrow should be a nice, relaxing, transitional day. No big deals, no big surprises. We're going to have a little bit of a lull. And then 2 days after that, we're going to go through another one of these low pressure fronts, cold, cloud, windy, maybe even some high level drizzles. And then after that, we're going to transition back into normal summertime 80s, 90-degree temperatures on the valley floor with those diurnal, those everyday winds that we're all used to. The Cajon Pass is still going to be windy, so don't worry, it's not going away. So that's kind of what we're looking at. So now let's talk about the fire and what happened and how we got to this state. So as you guys started way down over here, and it was just kind of doing its thing in the front country. But then Tuesday happened. So let's look at Tuesday in a bigger picture. So we had this fire on the landscape. And then if we think about fire moving in 3 dimensions, right? We're all familiar with wind, but when we saw that smoke column, that allows more wind to come in behind it. So it's an unstable atmosphere, like a big exhaust pipe or a really big chimney, if you will. So this fire got started up and it made this run or a big fire push. But let's talk about the topography and the fuels. I think that tells a better story. So we have records going back to the 1800s for LA County and this whole general area. So looking back at that, large sections of this have no recorded fire history. Never seen fire at all. The last significant fire in the center field here was in 1997. So that's all regrown. But what really gives you an indication of how difficult it is to fight this fire, anytime I hear the term wilderness, right? What does wilderness usually tell you? Lack of roads, lack of previous fires, very, very steep and rugged terrain. We work out hard, but some of those hills, they're tough. So this fire got started in here and got established, and it was making its way up here. I'm talking unprecedented levels of rarity. 1% of the 1% of occurrences when we look at the weather conditions, the forecast, and that rates of spread. To give you some scale of how fast this fire moved, once it got established, we were able to timestamp it like, okay, the fire's here. And then it moved a little bit more, and we had another timestamp. So then we're able to gauge the rate of spread, how fast it's driving down the road, if you will. And then we're able to calculate how far it's going to go out. When we do the big long math problem, I can tell you that the fire moved from approximately this location all the way out to what we call Wrightwood proper. That's 10 air miles. That's 10 miles as if you were flying in a plane. Vastly more if you actually had to walk it. So it's very, very difficult for our bulldozers, aircraft, and guys on the fire engine to try to keep up with that. So that gives you some idea. And as like you said, with those fuel loadings, that height of that vegetation, those fuels that came off at very, very challenging conditions. So that's kind of how we got to this situation. But let's take a view after working with Don in operations on what we see for our long-term issues going out. So if we start here down in the south, things are looking really good. If you guys don't know, we fly every day and every night with an IR platform that sees down from space. We have every tool that is available to us at our discretion. So if we ask for it, we're getting it. So no real heat conditions that we're seeing along the edge here. If we come up along here to this Rattlesnake, very, very steep, rugged country like he was mentioning, and we have some of those trees that are just cooking down. And what that does is that presents problems. What a term is called rollout. You'll hear that term again here in a little bit. So then we come down into here, and you see this is kind of in the burn scar of an old fire. And we're going to talk about old fires when we get to the other side. So what that gives us is a break. The fuels haven't fully recovered. So what happened in the past, while it was scary and bad back then, it actually affords us an opportunity now. So this is very, very steep, rugged country, working with operations and Don folks, trying to figure out what the fire wants to do in there and how do we engage our firefighters safely. As we come around the corner, back up over on the other side of Baden Powell, very, very steep. I had an opportunity to get out there today, talk with those operation folks about what we see from the fire behavior shop with that wind shifting, coming back around, and trying to find good opportunities where we can get our folks engaged. As we come over here in the Big Pines Highway corridor, one of the things I want to have you guys understand is when I come from my side, I don't necessarily look at how big the fire is on the land. I look at how much fire line there is, right? Because every foot of that fire line, if it goes up and down, that means somebody has to walk it with a chainsaw, the tools, 1 foot in the black, 1 foot in the green, and physically dig the fire out from what's burning and not burning. So while it might not be a large portion of the fire, it is a significant time commitment out there to actually go out there. And where we can't get bulldozers, it just takes time. And that rollout, so those trees are cooking down, it's been a couple of days, they break off, they roll down the hill, they get into new fuels, and they want to burn up again, and then they roll back down. So it's kind of like a stone skipping across the water. It just keeps bouncing along, but it's fire in this time. As we come back around over here, our advantage was it's light fuels. It's out in the desert in that feeling area where there's not going to be that rollout. It's not the big pine trees that's going to cook down. So it's very advantageous. Same story as you come back around over here. Again, a lot of fingers. The crews are able to get in there, and they're just tree pops up over here. They go and get that one, and then another one. So it takes a lot of time. As we come over here, things are looking really good. But when we talked about what happened in the past as our advantage, this Vista Star, what was bad back then is an excellent thing now. So we're all centered over here with all the crazy normal southwest winds we get from that ocean push. This provides a really good opportunity that if something should happen, which is a low probability, that all that fuel is removed. It's like a big area where there's not going to burn. So very, very recent burn scar. So that's good. But what also is interesting is Mount Baldy, right? It's bald for a reason. There's nothing that grows up there. So between this being devoid of fuels and Mount Baldy and that steep and rugged terrain, it offers some good opportunities for you folks over here. As we come back down in here, again, things are looking good. Those larger trees are continuing to cook down. They have more fire history in here, so that has lessened the fuel load overall for that location. And then as we come back around this corner, those folks are able to get in there. They're going in 50, 100, 200, 300 feet into that black, that burn area, and getting all that last residual heat out of there. I thank you for your time, and I welcome any questions at the end.
Thank you, appreciate that, Garrett. Next up, we're going to have from your San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Sanandikis.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk about law enforcement's response in these things. You've heard about fire behavior and a number of things tonight. So when we work in unified command, we're hearing from our firefighters exactly what that fire behavior looks like, and they start recommending what we call evacuation warnings, the lowest level saying, hey, folks, get ready to go. The fire may come your way. And then, of course, evacuation orders where they believe the fire's most likely going to be imminent. We've learned a few things in law enforcement going back to all the wildfires that we've seen across California. And I'm going to start with the Paradise Fire, which was a terrible fire with a lot of loss of lives up in Northern California, Butte County. One of the things they learned out of that, and one of the things we've equipped ourselves in San Bernardino County with, is a siren called a high-low siren. And it makes a high pitch. You can see it online. And if you go to preparesbcounty.gov, you can see that siren, or go to the Sheriff's Department website and you'll be able to see demonstrations of that. But for the last 2 years, since the Paradise Fire, we've been educating our community. If our community members hear the high-low siren, that means fire is imminent. It is going to burn and you need to get out now. So why am I telling you this? San Bernardino County went into unified command over the line fire first, which is up in our other mountains. Then obviously the bridge fire came in secondarily. So we had resources spread out. Okay, Sheriff, how do you deal with something that's that vast? We have what we call a mobile field force team. Most of the time you tend to think about teams like that because the CHP has one, a lot of large sheriff's department has one, but generally you hear about their use in civil disobedience type issues, major riots and things of that nature. What we did with our team, and it's about 100 deputy sheriffs, is we trained them to operate in platoons and squads. We're talking about 10 or 12 at a time, almost 100 deputies, but we trained them in all hazards. So that's including understanding what we can and can't do when evacuations, whether it's mandatory or voluntary, come up. And then we also have software, each one of them is equipped with a phone, where we can geolocate a home, basically say whether the person's staying or refusing to go. What's important about that piece of technology is for both the firefighters and the sheriff's department, we get a view on a map of how many people have evacuated, who's out of the area, and those types of things. So that mobile field force under lights and siren can scramble into an area, and this is why I wanted to start talking about the line fire and then when we came over into what happened in Wrightwood. Folks, what we viewed in terms of those of us trying to manage this scene, with your firefighters particularly out there in the Baldy coming down into the Wrightwood area, is nothing short of heroic. And I'm talking for the law enforcement officers that went in there and the firefighters that truly put up a battle and stopped it. All those lines you're seeing, particularly as it relates to the community of Wrightwood, as you're coming into San Bernardino County, it was heroic. I've since talked to, they are amazing. Yeah, they deserve a lot of applause. So I think most of you know that Congresswoman Judy Chu covers this area. I've already spoken to Judy about what was going on here, and she certainly, has offered help in a number of things. The fire department's very good when we have large-scale fires like this about getting what we call an FMAG, and that's really about our ability to get reimbursed for all the resources we're throwing at this. But what I want you to understand is we're working the line fire at the same time we're working this, and this is the dedication of the folks here in the county. I threw my mobile field force at it. Our municipal police departments, of which there are 10 in San Bernardino County, gave me another 30 people that helped us work both the line fire and the bridge fire. Matter of fact, they were just released because, as you've seen, the fire behavior, knock on wood, is starting to get control and a number of things that are going on here. But you may have also heard that the governor pre-staged some National Guard resources. On top of what I'm able to throw at this with law enforcement officers, we integrated the National Guard. And I want to tell you how we did this and why we do it this particular way. Your law enforcement officers in these areas and our other mountain communities certainly know the community, they know the roads. So what we were trying to do is we had evacuation orders that the fire department said, hey, we're going to be in these areas. We would evacuate, go through, just like I said, with that piece of technology, try to get everybody evacuated that we could. But when you evacuate those areas, we're all worried about our homes. And what I want you to understand about a lot of people don't think about, and you've heard a couple of the firefighters that came up here tonight, is they're local with us. Some of them have had to evacuate their homes. Some of your police officers have had to evacuate their homes, but they didn't get a chance to go back and get pictures and all those things because they're working. Why do I tell you that? Because your homes are our homes. And I'm telling you, we don't mess around with that. So in order of strategy, what we do is we'll evacuate an area, we come in with National Guard troops, put them in there to help us with security, and then also some of my law enforcement officers. But what that does is allow us to take that technology I spoke of and the high-low siren, and now we can flex. When the firefighters advise us there may be another order coming up and we need to get into that area very quickly, we're able to do that. So the night that the fire moved from 4,000 acres and all of a sudden the next morning was 34,000 acres, that was our really worrisome night, both in the community of Baldy and then also coming down into Wrightwood. And that's how we were able to do that leapfrog and scramble, as it just relates to the evacuation. And those firefighters that were embedded in there certainly had their hands full. But here's the thing, when I say your houses are our houses, we don't mess around. Since this has happened, I'm just talking Bridge Fire, the one that concerns all of you right now, we've made 17 arrests. There are people that have come into those evacuation areas that don't belong there, and they're going to jail. And we're not screwing around with that. We also ran across a $1.5 million marijuana grow on top of this and took care of business there. So my point is your homes are our homes, and we're going to treat them as such. And we don't mess around. When you're away from your home, you're worried about it. We're worried about it. And if somebody comes in and they mean to do harm or they don't have business in that area, I don't care what the little reason is. If there's some reason to take them to jail because they have a warrant or they want to get in a pursuit with the deputies because they were in an area that was evacuated, the final result is getting locked up. So please know that has been happening in your communities in those areas that are still evacuated, particularly when we're talking about the Wrightwood community and up there in Baldy. I've talked to a number of our friends and neighbors in Baldy especially, one in particular that kind of keeps me awake at night, but basically seeing the fire that's pretty well contained when it's at 4,000 acres, the particular resident describes seeing it, and 10 minutes later his entire property with 8 cabins and his house that he's building is fully engulfed. And he saves his own life by jumping into the pond. So that's the type of devastation that some of our friends and neighbors have certainly dealt with. So please know, we draw a line in the sand. If somebody messes with you, they mess with us, and we're going to deal with them, and that's exactly what's happened in this. We're going to do our very best to stand up all of your communities as we reintroduce folks back to their home, and unfortunately, we're going to find there may have been some loss in some of those things. But just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea about how this is affected. I mean, overall, between the two fires, it's 100,000 residents that have been completely impositioned and evacuated. And obviously at shelters and a number of those things that have certainly caused a bit of grief for everyone. As far as the evacuation orders that still exist, it's really Mount Baldy, that community, and just keeping it in its most simplest form, the Wrightwood community. And we're talking about evacuation warnings, so the Baldy Wilderness, that was spoke about here a little bit. Pinion Hills, the far north end of that fire, again still under warning, and then coming back down this direction, the Cucamonga Canyon area. And as you heard, I'm sure there are going to be some adjustments in all of those things. But please know that in this fire, as expansive as it was across all of our resort and mountain communities, including all you folks here in Lytle Creek, was a major undertaking for all those folks. Our fire departments across this state, you've seen them. I mean, you've seen them from out of state. That's the type of help we got in this county. And all of our partners came to our aid as residents in this county. But before I leave, I want to thank all of you. Because the reality is I have never seen the folks that have cooperated during evacuations. That Wrightwood piece I talked about, our CHP officers, second to none. When we started evacuating, citizens flowed out of there. You could see the big glow. I mean, it was scary. I don't care who you are. But then it got to the point where we needed to get more people out of the Wrightwood area. CHP closed down a lane, and we ended up 2 lanes of people and immediately got those folks out. So when you're talking about fire and law enforcement thinking on your feet, that's certainly what's happened in this fire. And it's certainly my hope that you're going to see some of these adjustments. Obviously, we got some good news today as what's happening. Hopefully the weather continues to cooperate with us. But it's been a Herculean effort, and please know that the unified command system between law enforcement and fire works. And it worked in this event. It's a shame that some people lost property, but I can only imagine, had we not had the mass response that we had on both the fire side and the law side, that the death, not just destruction, but the death that could have occurred. And knock on wood, we're surviving in this county, and we're surviving in LA County. So I'll stay here and I'll answer some more questions, but just please know that I do get elected by you. You are my boss. And if we weren't doing something right, I wouldn't be sitting in this seat. But please know that we take it seriously. Myself and my deputies, they mess with you, they mess with us, and we're going to deal with them. So thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Much appreciated for those words. Next up, we're going to bring up the District Ranger from the Front Country District, Mike Nobles.
Hey, so good evening, Lido Creek. Unlike the sheriff, I'm not elected, but I bet you wish I was, huh? So you have a little more leverage on what you need me to do for you all. I just wanted just to show my appreciation for everything that's been said. You know, the firefight on the bridge fire was an amazing firefight. I'll just give you an example. Is my division chief, Daniel Diaz, who's back there, he basically called me, goes, hey, you know, the Angeles got a fire. Do you think that's going to come our way? And he's looking at it, and he goes, there's potential. So I get on the phone. I call the district ranger on the Angeles, and I'm like, hey, Matt, do you think the fire's going to come my way? He's like, no, I think he's got to do all this and all that and blah, blah, blah. And then it happened, right? And he calls me in the morning. He goes, hey, I lied. Right. But I also want to give a shout out to Ellen and Kathy. They do an amazing job for you all in this community. You know, they really hold me accountable to make sure that, you know, when there's a need, that we try to leverage everything that we have to meet your need. I know it's not always 100% what you desire, but they really care about this community, and they got my phone number, and I affectionately referred to Kathy this evening because the last couple of days, some of the fires before they even came out on the emergency alert, she was telling me, hey, there's a fire in the canyon, right? Yeah. And so just don't take Ellen and Kathy for granted. They're volunteers. They care about the community. But also, I just kind of wanted to close out with, you know, I'm your public servant. We're your public service. We're here to serve you. And yeah, the firefighters did an amazing job, this collective effort between Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County Sheriff Department, San Bernardino County, United States Forest Service, and then also California Incident Management Team 5, who came and organized all this with IC Dustin Mueller, which is a testament of what we're looking at today, because this thing looked a lot different a few days ago, right? We were thinking that it was not going to stay where it's at. So good planning on everybody's effort, good engagement on everybody's effort, and to the sheriff's point is, you know, the firefighters, they're local as well, right? So they drop everything they do, and some of them had to be evacuated, but yeah, they selflessly served the communities of San Bernardino County and LA County to bring this to a better place. So I appreciate all the effort from the municipal departments, like I said, but I also appreciate the engagement of the community. I appreciate your presence here. I appreciate your engagement. I appreciate you reaching out to say, hey, what's going on? What do you need us to do? And you all mostly cooperate. You know, so, but no, I love y'all. And I thank Dustin and his team for putting this together, so to bring some information so we can understand what's going on out there. You know I'll be here. I live right down the road, so so yeah, if you need me, you got my phone number, and I'll hang out probably for a couple minutes, but I'll try to run away from y'all. No, I'm just playing. So y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Ranger Nobles. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to bring our incident commander up for California Interagency Incident Management Team 5, Dustin Mueller.
All right. Well, thank you guys for humbling us with everything and letting us be part of your community. It's really nice to come speak to you tonight. So like Nathan said, my name's Dustin Mueller, Incident Commander for California Interagency Team 5. You know, I'd like to start with kind of back on when the fire started and kind of get you to where we're going. So it's going to take a little bit, but not too long, I promise. A lot of time for questions and answers afterwards. So a makeup of an interagency team in California. So what is that, right? You know, there's an interagency means a lot of things. And there's departments from all over, north to south, Siskiyou County to San Diego County on our team, all different agencies, federal, state, local. We have, like our food unit leader works for CDCR, which is state corrections. So we're really a big, inclusive bunch, and you know, about 90 to 100 of us mobilized with this fire. We were on a mandatory 7-day off. We came on day 6 just because it was that important of a fire. So we mobilized. I'm from just north of Reno on the California side in a small town called Janesville. Took me a while to get down here. But my deputy incident commander, which spoke at the last meeting, he's right here from Murrieta. So, you know, we have the state pretty much covered. And then once we get here, we take a delegation of authority. So what a delegation is basically full fire management responsibilities from the agencies of federal government, state government, and local government, mostly firefighting efforts-wise. So once I got that on, you know, that Monday night, Tuesday morning, we took command Tuesday morning, and that's when it happened, right? 4,000 acres, we were sitting there about, you know, it started to boil up. We were down there in Arcadia getting our plan together, briefed the troops. We were still fighting the fire aggressively. And then that massive spread happened, 30 to 40,000 acres in a 24-hour period, right? That all shocked us. Our plans went to crap. You know, how can you plan for that? You know, what Sheriff was talking about on the park fire, that's my forest where I come from. Where that happened, I was the duty chief when that happened. So I've lived it. So we had to readjust. Our plans had to readjust. So what that takes us into is the next phase of unified command. We bring all these agencies together because we can't do it alone. We get all the local firefighters everybody's been talking about. That's true. Everybody's here. My job is to coordinate all the chaos and to bring in additional firefighters from across the country to help support the local firefighters because they need rest too. The local sheriff's office, everybody needs help. Deputies need feeding. That's what I do. Try to help them out. So, like I said, we took command. The blow-up happened. That's where I leave you today. So that was about 4,000 acres, went to 40,000 acres within 24, 25 hours. I'm using rough numbers. So where we're at today. So updated numbers for right now, we're at 54,774 acres. So containment. Donald talked about it earlier as operations. We've raised that to 25% tonight. So that's a quarter of the way. So with that, more to come. You know, we still have night shift. Firefighters are out there right now. Deputies are supporting the firefighters by keeping them safe on the roads. Everybody's still working while we're here talking about this. So with that, you know, kind of where we're going from now and, you know, what a team looks like nationally. There's no teams available. We're still, you know, preparedness level 5 nationally. Oregon, Washington, Great Basin, all those areas, they still have, there's roughly 28 teams out nationally. Resources, over 26,000 responders are committed nationally to fires. This is bad. This is what we've been talking about for years to come, right? It's happening. So we're here right now. Our main focus is point protection of the communities, which includes yours. You're in the peripheral, right? You're right here, or you're in our focus area. We're going to point protect this area. Don's making plans to cut the fire off on that east flank. And we got all the resources coming. We're the #1 fire in the country. What that means is we're the #1 priority right here in these 2 counties. So with that, leader's intent, I still give leader's intent every day to the firefighters and the people on the ground, and that's an aggressive, full suppression fire. There's no screwing around with this one. We're going to put it out. Okay, so unified command, once again. We talked about CAL FIRE, Travis Stogelmartin. Big help. CAL FIRE's jumped in a lot on this one. They have their hands full over here on the line fire in San Bernardino County, but the CAL FIRE has really helped us out with resources here. All over the North State, they've sent resources down. You know, it's a little bit wet up there. They have some lightning fires, but they have a lot of resources that have helped us. They've really helped bolster the federal government as well. So with that being said, Los Angeles County Fire, Los Angeles County Sheriff, San Bernardino County Sheriff, San Bernardino County Fire, we're all in unified command. What that means is there's no single commander, I may be in the center, kind of just coordinating on it all, but there's no single commander. What that means is there's no single jurisdiction. There's a bunch of different complexities with this one. So realize that when all of us come together and we talk about unified command, it's very complex. We all have different jurisdictions. We all have different accountabilities. Some report to the governor. Some report to the executive branch of the government. Some report to you guys as elected officials as here local. So with that, gratitude for you guys being patient with us. I know, seeing fire those first couple nights over on top of the hill here on the North Fork, that could be, scary. But weather came in and helped us out, and we're going to try to put this thing out as soon as possible. So thank you and have a great night. I'll be around for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate that. And with that, that's the formal presentation of tonight's evening. So we're going to go into questions and answers. We did get some questions on the cards, and we're going to bring some of the folks back up to answer some of those questions. But some of the ones that we did get is there a cause of the fire? And the cause of the fire is still under investigation. Our investigators are out there. They're doing the hard work it takes to try to figure out what started this fire. And once we do, we'll let you folks know as soon as we know. Some of the other ones was when is the evacuations, of course, going to be lifted? That's on a day-to-day basis. We reevaluate every day, and we're letting our folks know once we know when we can let folks back into areas, when we will lower the orders down to warnings, lower the warnings down to back to normal. We will let folks know as soon as that happens. So please keep a look at your local, either sheriff's office website, your local fire department's website, to try to find out when that actually happens. And we announce those as well. You'll find those on NCWeb. So keep a look at some of those numbers. We're still looking for that stuff. Some of the other questions that were out there were some of the damage and destruction to buildings like Grassy Hollow, Bighorn Mountain, the zip lines. We were still out there. The county has teams that are damage assessment teams that are out there, and they're looking. And once they find that out, they'll let us know. They're making a report right now. So when we find those things out, we'll let folks know, and we'll put that out there. And some of that information's already out there, and we have some QR codes in the back of the room. You can take a look at some of that stuff. But we want to bring Don Fergulia back up. He's got a question for you folks.
All right, and mine are similar actually that Nathan handed me there. So it said, why are we still evacuated even though there's no smoke or fire near my home? So it's not just the fire, right? That's my focus and that's my priority, but it's also infrastructure, right? It's the power company, the gas company, the water company, and all those people have to come back in before we can let people come back into their houses. And so that stuff, unfortunately, takes time. I can say that we're making good progress out there and that I think you're going to see some of that change here in the coming days. But I certainly can't give any specifics. It's all based on what's going on with the fire on a daily basis, as well as all those other infrastructure things that I mentioned. So, in the same, what are the plans to lift the evacuations in Wrightwood and Mount Baldy? There are plans, right? And so we're making those plans right now. It has to be done in an orderly fashion. We're talking about the massive movement of a massive amount of people, and these things just take time. So we're working diligently day and night. I've been evacuated. I'm from Northern California. I've been in that position before, so I take that to heart. Like the sheriff said, it's serious business for us, and we're going to get it done just as fast as we can. So that's it. Thank you.
Well, I got a good question, probably mostly for online visitors, but hopefully if I stumble too much, both sheriffs will help me a little bit. So the question is, what needs to happen in Mount Baldy to be able to return? So just realize every day we meet as a unified group and talk about this and what's safe for the firefighters on the ground, what's realistic for the law enforcement officers of those communities of the two counties. So we talk every day. We talk with Public Works. We talk with utilities, right? We have to make sure it's safe, to make sure the water's safe, electric safe, it's habitable, all those things. So we actually recently met today, and we're still in discussions about Mount Baldy and Wrightwood. So there should be some, every day we're going to continue to talk about that and what's safe for the firefighters, really, and safe for the people to return, mostly probably from Mount Baldy that's online. So that's kind of what happens. We're close. I can't really foresee it going too much longer, but we are close, and it should be happening pretty soon. I don't know if when the sheriffs come up here with some of their cards. I think the San Bernardino County Sheriff, he may be able to go in a little more depth and maybe more comfortable to release some more information, but that's as much as I am as the unified IC. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate that. We've got one for back Don. We'll bring Don back up.
This is one I can answer. So I know resources were thin with all the fires in the area. If the resources were available, could the spread from 4,000 to 34 or 54,000 acres have been prevented? And I'm gonna look at my fire behavior analyst there, the 1% of the 1% day. I'm not sure that was preventable. I really don't. I think all the air tankers and all the firefighters in the world could not have prevented that from happening. We certainly could have tried, and we do try, but I don't know that would have been possible. So that answers the question.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate that. Next up, we'll bring back Garrett with fire behavior.
All right. Thank you for the questions, first and foremost. So we'll go through these. So question, winds are supposed to come from the opposite directions Thursday night, Friday. Do we have a contingency plan? The answer is yes. So also that works with me is a incident meteorologist. So they are on loan from the National Weather Service, and they are a specialist in what they do. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight because he was briefing the troops and the firefighters out on the line, but we're in constant conversation. So the question is about that west side of the fire. Yes, we already did a little bit of a wind shift, and that is true, but it's going to be mild. But the other thing that is in our favor from where, so the wind is going to come back over here, but all this terrain over here is going to act like a mitt and try to catch it. You guys all live in the forest and you understand that the tops of the trees are moving, but you don't feel anything down over here. And with that fire being down low like that, it's going to have that same effect. So yes, it is going to be wind, but it's a long way it's got to make it across that landscape until it hits that fire on there. But we are actively monitoring that, and that's one of those things I work with Don. Get that back in there. Okay, so next question. How fast the fire went those 10 miles? So it's kind of hard to gauge a fire moving that fast across the landscape when we talked about speed. But I can tell you, if we do the math from where it started to where it ended, it moved on average a mile an hour. So that's pretty fast. But I can also tell you, it was kind of like a run, sprint to a walk. It was like a breathing, eating animal. It would take a big breath in, you would see that big column go up, the rate of spread would increase, and then it would go back down. But overall, it moved across about a mile to a mile and a half an hour. And remember, that's a linear path. That's not going up and down. So very, very rapid across the landscape. So the next question is, roughly how many miles still burning? Is it just the northwest corner and Baldy? So it's kind of a unique question. Yes, there are places that are still burning, but some of those heat signatures, what we use with the satellite and the drones, that are interior. But the active burning, I can gladly say we're not measuring that in miles now. We're like Incident Commander, we're in point protection. We're also in like a point suppression effort. So we're identifying those smaller hot spots, those smaller pieces. And I say smaller relatively. It's not in miles. It could be half mile, quarter mile. And we're focusing our efforts on that area. So again, thank you for the questions.
Thank you, Garrett. Next up, we're going to bring back up the sheriff. He's got some questions.
You guys can help me out with this. Remember what I said when bad folks visit our homes? What do? We go to? Yeah. Okay, very good. So, first question. What is being done? Oh, I'm sorry. What is being done to prevent looting in the evacuation zones? Go to jail. Go to jail. Folks, we have the National Guard in those neighborhoods as well as the law enforcement officers. If you're not supposed to be in there, you're walking and talking or whatever, we make contact with those people. We ensure whether they belong or don't belong. And those, even if they have something minor for entering that area, they're getting arrested and being moved out. So we take that seriously. Also, on the LA County side, I spoke to San Bernardino County, but Sheriff Luna and I, we've worked together for a number of years. Great guy. His deputies are doing the same thing. And I'll just put a joke. The only thing is my DA prosecutes, so they might bring him to my side. Okay. The next question, and remember I talked about preparesbcounty.gov. If you go there, a lot of these resources we're going to talk about can point you out to phone numbers and things to help you with this, but this was specifically for disabled folks that may need some assistance. I would suggest you go there first, get those phone numbers, let us know what you need, and absolutely, they do have resources, whether it's bus companies, medical transports, as we repopulate once our fire partners give us its go time. So please go to that site and we'll make those arrangements. Just so you know who's making those arrangements, in San Bernardino and LA County, we also have, a lot of times you'll hear us talk about the state Office of Emergency Services, but counties have Office of Emergency Services. Volunteers and a number of these type of transports are what they organize and will get you taken care of. And then there was a question about, can we get escorts for medicines and pets? Same thing, go to that site, tell us what the problems are, how much medication you have, and we'll make those determinations as to whether or not that's possible. The comment in here was, hey, we were told by the sheriff, no. When the fire first starts, it's always human life is where we're at. So if you're out, the answer is pretty strict, no, because we're trying to protect the property and more importantly, protect you. One of the things that's going on when you're talking about the Wrightwood area, and some of our fire partners just shared this with me, when you talk about you may not see fire, some of these things, remember, trees are weak now that they've been burned. It may take cutting them down and removing them so they're not falling on people or falling on houses. They mentioned Edison. Is the power turned on? Are there wires down? There are a lot of processes that our fire department goes through before they coordinate and say it's okay for you guys to repopulate. So just please know that's going in. And again, if you need medication and it's some type of emergency, go to that site. We've got folks that are manning a number. When those requests come through, we start getting those accommodated. One of this question was about apps. I'm not familiar with this app, but I think I understand where the conflicting information is coming up. How many of you are using Watch Duty? Okay. Those apps give a lot of good, timely information, but they may not be exactly to what you're experiencing when you're seeing boots on the ground. Or more importantly, and this is the question I think I'm going to answer that is concerning everybody. When the fire department says, hey, you need to get out and you need to get out now because this is an order, or when they say it's a warning, what happens is the request comes into us on their advice. Of course, we take their advice. They're the professionals with fire. But we design a message, and the message goes out two ways. One is what we call the 10 system, which is the old landline telephone. Not too many people have those. The other one is, they call it WENS, and it's the wireless emergency network. So traditional and non-traditional. The wireless piece, and why we victimize all of you guys a little bit, is when you set up the geo coordinates, which is nothing more than a geo fence on a map, it isn't perfect. And so sometimes we'll overflow into areas that fire says, hey, that wasn't an order, it's just a warning, or it's nothing. So what happens is it takes us a little while that technology sets, and we work with our firefighter partners and make those determinations. And you will see in a short period of time, we'll back those off and clarify the information. But those two pieces of technology are really important to us because that starts you in the right direction immediately while we start dumping resources into your neighborhood. Has the Bridge Fire area been given a disaster declaration? Yes. So the first disaster declaration started with the line fire, then we moved into the bridge, and now the airport fire that we're all watching in Orange and Riverside County. Those, the governor did declare a disaster and has dedicated state resources to every single one of our fires. So you heard mention of CAL FIRE and all the resources. They are taking care of business everywhere, and those management teams are the ones that are coordinating all this. Once we're able to go home, will it be open to residents only? At first, yes, it will be open to residents. And then after that, now I know you guys get victimized because it happens to you even when there's not a fire. What we're seeing across this county is you guys live in a resort mountain community. We have a lot of those, Wrightwood going all the way up to Lake Arrowhead, Running Springs, and all those places we've been talking about tonight. Folks, with the population increase we've seen in this state, we've had to do things in law enforcement. I'll just give you an example. We call it snow play. And we're lucky to be supported by the Board of Supervisors because they actually give us overtime money, if you will, to start taking care of those things. And one of the things I'll go back and I'll talk to Supervisor Rao tonight about, and she's wonderful in terms of taking care of all of you. is talk about maybe we need to come up in the summer months with creek play, where we're coming out here and clearing some of those folks, because I know all of our mountain communities are a little tired of dirty baby diapers being left behind. Is that the truth? So when we repopulate, we'll handle it that way. We'll try to get residents in first. But as you know, there's going to be looky-loos and everything else, and we will make sure that, again, we deal with those people, and when they don't cooperate, they... Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff. I really appreciate that. That concludes the meeting for this evening. I appreciate everybody taking your time out, come out here today, watching us online. Thank you so much for coming out here. We're still going to be around here afterwards to talk one-on-one. Thank you again. We'll see you later.